proudly presented by PwC. Thank you to our judges, Yap Burke from EMCO, Royce Peretti from Deloitte, Ian Dunn from Richard Ivey School of Business, Shannon McNair from McNair Business Development, Jonathan Ricci from PwC, and Richard Trober from PwC. Competitors will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes for questions. I will show time cards at various intervals to indicate the remaining time, and will stop a speaker who exceeds the maximum time limit. No questions, comments, cell phones, or picture taking are permitted by the audience. You're also only permitted to applaud following a question and answer period. You're also banned from any material that bears the name or symbol of a competing university. And we ask that you exit the room immediately following the question and answer period. Competitors, you may begin when you are ready.
Alright, so welcome. My name is David. I'm joined by Shandy and Lona, and we are Team G. And we're very excited to be here to talk to you today about Western Beer Artisans and their plans for future expansion. Western Beer Artisans has had a strong reputation of being a great microbrew in Western City, and we believe that moving forward, you can, as you look to expand, you can continue this strength that your company has seen. So go over a quick agenda. I'll be identifying the issue about how you want to expand and looking at some of our decision process and how we came up with this. Ilona's going to be going over our expansion alternatives and weighing how we decide which options to go with. And then Shadi will be finishing up with the financing alternatives and some of the cost control systems that you want us to look at as well. So the main issue is the expansion of Western Beer Artisans, rather. You had, in the information you had given us, you had outlined a few different options that you want us to look at pursuing. The one was the buyout of the Don's Restaurant and Bar. The other one was expanding to a new location in Western City, with Don's Bar being in Northern City. We ended up deciding to go with the start the new brew pub in Western City. The reason for this we'll touch on later, but mainly it's to go with what you know, stay in the city that's experiencing some strong growth. So if we look at our roadmap of how we came up with this, obviously you guys have told us you wanted to expand, and we knew that expansion was necessary for your company. And then we were given the option of Don's or the new brew pub. Right off the bat, I'm going to say that we didn't want to go with both options due to the added complexities this would provide. So going with two different options at the same time, that's a lot on your plate for just two owners, and that's something that we think that you could maybe look at in the future. So now that we know we're going with the new brew pub, we need to look at whether we're going with the sale of our brew pub in the smaller city, or whether we need to go with a loan from the bank. And we've decided to go with a loan based on a couple of reasons. One being the loan, we found the loan to be cheaper, and we didn't want to give up even though the brew pub in the smaller city was experiencing some stagnation in cost, we didn't want to give up that large amount of money that it was still making year over year. So now we've done with the roadmap, I'm going to pass it off to Ilona, who's going to talk a bit about why we made the decision to go with the new brew pub.
Thank you, David. So as David touched on, we have identified several different alternatives, and I'm just going to take you through the qualitative and the quantitative implications of each of these so that you better understand where your company is at and what are the best choices for you to make from here on out. So first of all, we conducted a quantitative analysis on Don's Restaurant and Bar. And so with this, we calculated the net present value of this option. So with this, we noticed an initial investment, which consisted of two components, the $850,000, as well as the $350,000 that would be needed to purchase the equipment, as well as the actual restaurant itself, which is essentially a cash outflow of $1.1 million. The next aspect then is the net present value of the projected income over the years. Based on the information that you graciously provided us, we were able to come up with this using the assumptions that you had identified. So that is how we arrived at that number. And then finally, we took the present value of the CCA tax shield, and so we added this into the net present value calculation as well. So this overall gave us a total of $1.3 million net present value. However, we know that the financial implications aren't everything necessarily. So we also wanted to take a look at the qualitative implications of pursuing this, just to give you a broader perspective on the entire issue at hand. So with this, the advantages is that Don's is an established company. They've been in this business for 15 years, and they've done very well. And so this is something for Dawn to be proud of, and that is why this opportunity is even being considered in the first place. So with an established company comes an established market, it comes an established knowledge of how the business best operates. And so this will definitely be an advantage if you so choose to go with this. Now on the flip side, there's several disadvantages that will need to be considered as well. So with this, there's the misalignment of the overall strategy. Your company is great at what it does, and it does this through a differentiation strategy. What you do what nobody else does, and you do it well. And so because of this, you can charge a premium price for this. And so we want to take this in mind when we go forth. However, Dawn's is known, what we would like to consider Dawn's more that they compete on price. And we can see this based on the bottled beer sales that they sell and how much this makes up of it. So as a result of this, Dawn's has a different target market than what you initially go after in the first place. And so because of this, there would be a complete change in the overall strategy of the company, and thus consolidating and merging these two companies will have implications beyond just the financials. So keeping this in mind, we want to move forward to our second alternative, which is the new Western City brewpub. Once again, we think this is a great opportunity, and we'll be looking at the two different aspects of this as well. So first off, we have the initial investment. As you will see in the slide right behind me, that this is significantly lower than the investment for the other company, which when it comes time to approach financing, is going to be a much easier sell than the $1.1 million. As well, the net present value for projected income, which was calculated based on the after-tax cash inflows, is also $2 million for that, resulting in a net present value of $1.4 million, which is higher than the other net present value calculated. So based on just to summarize where we are at right now, based on the quantitative analyses, we've identified that the new Western City is your better choice. However, once again, to give you a broader perspective, we'll take you through the qualitative reasons and show you why this really is the best choice for you. So with this, the advantages is that this is a startup company. And so with a startup company, there's many benefits associated. For example, you've started up several startup companies of your own within this industry. You've had prior knowledge in doing this, you have experience, and you have been successful every single time. And we believe that this is something that you are good at doing, and because of this experience, this is a huge benefit for you. As you know, you can make this company exactly what you want it to do. You can shape it, you can develop the strategy as you would best like to see it happen. Next, when we look at disadvantages, as with any new business, there are risks associated, whether this is financial, based on economic. This is a new development area as well. And so with a new development area, you never really know how the economy will do. However, part of this is going beyond those profits and making sure to look that we are boosting the economy and supporting that throughout. And so you will see this tied in later as well. The other risk is of cannibalization. There are many other companies and operating within this industry. We want to make sure that we're being fair with all of this. There's also the potential, though, for other companies to come in and potentially put us at a greater risk of going out of business, so this too is something we need to keep in mind. However, after evaluating both the quantitative and the qualitative factors, we do believe that overall going with this new business will be the better for you in the long run. So just to give you a broader overview of where we're at now, we've identified that that's the better option to go, but how exactly will we pay for that? At this point, we'll go into both a quantitative and a qualitative discussion of whether to sell one of your other businesses off to finance the strategy, or whether to obtain a bank loan and get this financing that way. So with this, comparing the two options, we did a present value calculation of each of these financing options to see which one is better for you in the long run. When you're selling brewpub, what you're looking at is a loss of cash flows year after year for a total of 5 years, which is what you had asked us to do. And with this, we notice significant cash flows decreasing over time, as well as the loss of the tax shield, which gives you your tax implications of that. So that arrives at approximately $500,000 cost to you over 5 years. On the flip side, when we look at the loan repayment, which is being done over 5 years, as well. This loan payment, we took the interest expense off of that, and we present valued the interest expense over time to give you the cost of what that would be in that time as well. So as you will see, there is a substantial difference between these two, and for that reason, we recommend that you pursue the loan agreement to finance this new startup business. However, as said before, we would like to give you some qualitative reasons as to why this decision is supported. So with that, I'd like to pass it off to Shandy to further this discussion.
Thank you, Alana. Now, to take you through the qualitative side, in order to give you a more comprehensive view on why we are choosing this strategy for your organization, we have identified two opportunities for you. First, to sell the existing brew pub in the smaller city. And second of all, to obtain a loan while maintaining the other organization, but to start up a new company in Western City. There are a couple risks and benefits associated with each of these options. First of all, for the selling the brew pub, it is a loss of business, which may be offset by the fact that there is a decline or a stagnant growth in this company. However, this organization is one that gives you guaranteed cash flows every single year. It is nice to count on that cash cow to keep your business running, because as you are opening up new organizations, you are incurring risk within your company, and you do not want to take too big of a gamble. What if this new initiative is not quite as successful as early on as we are anticipated and as the financial information shows? We don't want your company to be at a risk of default. This is primarily why we are recommending to keep this organization, to give you that guaranteed cash inflow, at least until this new brew pub in Western City is up and running and giving you that cash flows that you know you will get eventually. So basically, to summarize it, it does decrease your company-wide risk. And with regards to the loan, it is a large commitment. So whether it's a good year financially or whether it's a poor year financially, you're still going to have to make that payment. And as well, you will be providing financial statements to the bank. We do know that you have to do this already, but we just felt that it was worth pointing out that if you do go through with this loan, they will maintain that requirement for you annually. As well, it was asked if we could enlighten you as to some financial statement implications of each of these options. For selling the brew pub, you will see a decrease in your capital assets. And accordingly, if there is a gain or loss on sale, it will show up as an unusual item on your income statement, as this type of transaction is not a typical activity for your organization. With regards to the loan, you will see increased debt-to-equity ratios and increased debt-to-asset ratios, which is understandable considering your company is incurring an extra $900,000 of debt. However, we feel that these numbers still are manageable given your company's strategy and how well this option aligns with you. This is why that we are choosing to go forward with the loan in order to finance the new brew pub in Western City in order to guarantee growth in the future for your organization. In addition, it was brought to our attention that cost control could be a potential issue within this company. So we have taken the liberty to do a variance analysis of the production costs of all the inputs into making this specialty beer for your customers. As you can see, there is an overall unfavorable balance of $17,000, but don't be alarmed. The main cause for this is an unfavorable variance in the malt input, which is partially offset by a favorable price variance, but they are using more of the product than industry standards. Everything else tends to offset itself a little bit, which we do not feel a cause for alarm. We feel that the costs are relatively in keeping with industry standards, and this is not an area for concern for your company. We do not feel that this is where your resources should be targeted in order to sustain your future growth. We feel that the real issue at hand that needs to be dealt with is inventory controls. In the prior year, your organization manufactured 9,000 hectoliters of beer. Of this, 878 was gone to waste because its shelf life had expired. And this resulted in a loss of $105,000. And know that this cost is only at the production cost. This isn't lost revenues. That number would be much greater. So you can see that this, if managed properly, could result in much better income statement for your organization. And we feel that if this issue is mitigated, your company could reach new heights of success. Therefore, in order to do this properly, we will recommend
to implement an inventory management system. It is stated that this company produces 9,000 hectoliters each and every year, and at every year end, the number of hectoliters on hand is the same. We recommend analyzing historical data based on sales trends and what types of beer are favorites, and therefore, from that information, determining what levels of each beer should be kept on hand at year end in order to minimize the waste incurred and the cost incurred by this organization. If no historical data to such detail is available, we recommend implementing this immediately so that this will not occur again in the future. Following up with that, our implementation, now that we have streamlined the decision process for you, in order to move forward with this new venture, obtain bank financing is something that needs to be done immediately, and then negotiating the space in the mall in order to start up this new organization. And then we also need to obtain the lease for the new equipment and materials needed to start this new venture in Western City. All this needs to be done relatively soon so that this company can be up and running and getting you profits in the next fiscal year. Now, for the long term, we want to align the strategy of the new brewpub with your current operations in Western City. This is crucial because this is a main reason why we recommended getting a new brewpub as opposed to going with Don's. Is because Don's did not align with your corporate strategy, and this is something that needs to be streamlined. Everything needs to be aligned so that people know what they're getting when they come into one of these shops. So, and with that, we also need to do the inventory control processes because this will help you get additional revenues, minimizing your cost expenditures and wasted product. And this should be in place after 1 to 5 years. Will be depending on how much historical data is available, but we do recommend starting it immediately, and hopefully it will be up and running in the next fiscal year. And with that, we'll pass things off to David to take you through how the implementation encompasses nonprofits and to wrap things up for you.
Thanks, Andy. So throughout our presentation, we've given you a lot of different recommendations, and each of these is kind of, in a way, looked at or incorporated an aspect of the beyond profits. So if we look at the economy and how we've helped the economy, not only the economy of Western City, but our own personal economy as well. So with our inventory management system, we recommend, as Shani just touched on, to implement this new inventory management system, thus saving us money. We're wasting money that doesn't need to be wasted, and with a minimum or a small expense up front to get this system up and running, we'll save we'll have large savings down the road. When we look at sustainable growth, we're opening up a new business venture in Western City in a new developing area. We're helping our city grow and making sure that our company is growing as well, thus driving our economy. And then supporting local businesses as well. This is something that is key to the Western Beer Artisans strategy in buying local and using those local goods to make their beer. This is something that needs to continue to be done as it's part of what makes your company what it is, and is part of your overall strategy that we're really excited about. Moving on to the ethics side of things. Part of you, or what the information you've given us, you mentioned that you had donated to the SAD, 1% of your gross profit, and you want us to figure out about how much more of the gross profit we could provide to SAD, maintaining a 20% return on assets. So going through that calculation, we figured out that you could end up donating about 4%, or 3.88 exactly, of your alcohol gross profit to SAD while maintaining that 20% ROA. We calculated this using the current total assets multiplied by 20% to figure out the net income we needed, and then we calculated back to figure out how much more total we could be donating to SAD, and then we found how much percent of the gross profit that was. Then we looked at environment, and what we really want to see from our environmental standpoint is minimizing that waste. So currently we're throwing out about 878 hectoliters of beer. That's a lot of water that's being wasted, a lot of wheat that's being wasted, and we don't want to see the hard work wheat that the farmers have been producing wasted on something that we can control. So we found that this is something that we can minimize and helps the environment out altogether. So in summary, we've looked at expanding Western Beer Artisans. We're very excited as we've recommended to move into the new brew pub in Western City, and how that's going to help not only your economy, but the economy of Western City, and really continue your growth in the strong performance that your company has been showing throughout their existence. So with that, we'll wrap up and we'll take any questions. Thank you.
The other comment on Dawn's, one of the reasons we didn't go ahead with it was that it was already established business, rather than setting up new so we can build in our company strategy. Is there any way that we could continue on with Dawn's, but because I think we'd be rebranding it anyways and putting in our own corporate strategy?
Absolutely. Although it is a bit more of a process, if we do go forth with Dawn's, it's definitely still an option and a viable one at that. What would have to happen is that we would recommend at that point hiring some human resource professionals to come in and evaluate change management and implement a change management program into that to help shift this corporate strategy. If we do go forth with this, we want to make sure it's successful, and we feel that's the best way to approach that.
In that present item, both the options look very high and most people, they look very attractive. So is there a way to pursue this balance sheet strong enough with support, or more to do both and then keep the number of some? Is that an option that could be considered?
What we found was, even though we do have that strong balance sheet and we had both the financing options, we really think that the amount of focus it would take to open a new brew pub is something we want to directly focus on one, rather than trying to get too many plates in the air and risking messing up somewhere and having that ruin our financial situation. So that's kind of what we wanted. Even though there was a possibility maybe for that, we didn't think there was a strong strategy for your company.
One thing I noticed just for the new Western City brew pub, you've got an initial investment of $700,000. Does that? I don't think that includes the equipment investment. Perhaps it does, but if it didn't include it, that investment would be about $950,000. So would that change the outcome, or was the equipment incorporated into that, or?
So based on the information that you provided for us, we noticed that the $700,000 would go towards the equipment and the capital assets of the organization. Because the company is, because it will be a lease contract, that was included in the initial after-tax cash flows that was coming in. So that's how we, based on that information, that's how we made that decision.
You discussed the inventory controls around the loss on lease of beer, approximately $5,000. But that's great that you had thought about a way that we could implement something to control that a little bit better. When we brought up the malt cost, though, we're losing $22,000 straight up on malt. Do you happen to know of any ways that we could improve that so that we're not wasting as much on malt? Or?
Yes, there is two factors in that unfavorable variance. It was part of it was the price. We were acquiring the malt cheaper than industry standards by about 2 cents per kilogram. However, we were using 1.3 more kilograms per hectoliter. So that was what largely attributed to that unfavorable balance. We did not look too far into the production controls because once we identified the bigger issue, we felt that that was the primary course of action, and then once the larger issue is resolved, then we thought that you could refine the production process. We didn't feel that it was crucial enough at this point to do an in-depth analysis on how to refine that process.
With that being said, I also noticed that it had mentioned that the brewmaster would sometimes not measure if he didn't have the time. So we could also look at maybe implementing a control system to make sure that that measurement is getting perfect every time, or we're not adding an extra hop or malt when we don't need to. Thank you.
Your recommendation keeps us here in Western City as opposed to a new geographic area. And I'm just wondering, given that we have 3 locations already here, do you see that as a risk, and did you do any type of sensitivity analysis to take account for it?
Well, looking at that risk, what we saw with this new brew pub was that it wasn't an expanded part of Western City. So we really see that as kind of an additional part of the city that is untouched so far. Looking into Northern City, yes, it's a new market, and we realized that there could possibly be some cannibalization of our own business there. But it's not really something that we felt was too strong because it is this new market. There's going to be a lot more businesses around this area, people that will be coming to that brew pub. So while we didn't do too much of a in-depth sensitivity analysis, we found that that was the thing that was the most important when looking at this decision.